Hi, and welcome to the Pear Conf channel. I'm Marlena Compton, and today I'm going to be talking about what leveling up your pairing skills looks like. We know that practicing is important, and we know that communicating is important if you're pairing, but if you do this for a while, there's no real roadmap to tell you what does it mean to level up? What does it mean to become a more advanced pair? How do you know that you're really getting into advanced territory? And so today I'm going to share a few skills that I feel is leveling up a person who is pairing or a pair. And some of this might be new to you, some of it might not be, but I think that there's something in here for everyone. And the first one is something that I had to work on quite a lot, and it can be very frustrating. So imagine this. You are pairing with someone. You have been doing this maybe longer than the other person, or maybe you've been at the company longer than the other person. Somehow you have an edge, and you're pairing and they're just going too slow for you. Like you're the one who is navigating, so you're not typing, the other person's typing, but they're just not going quickly enough. And you're taking turns or whatever, and it's like, oh my God, I just want to type. And then you think, maybe can I just do this part? And then you tell the person, is it okay if I just jump in? This is the key phrase. Can I just jump in? Just a little bit? Really? Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit? So let's freeze in this moment. This is the moment. I've felt this. I'm sure other people have felt this too. It feels so tiny to say this, but really, if you say this to your pair, what you've just told them is, I can't stand this anymore. I need to drive. What is this? This is us losing our patience. I remember being the pair who was doing this and realizing, wait, I have just totally taken the session away from this person. I just took this person's turn. So leveling up as a pair is about having more patience and understanding how you personally are responding to the pairing flow, and when you yourself need to maybe shift your actions a little bit. This is leveling up because this is having a self-awareness while you're pairing. And so in this moment of let me just jump in, your brain is going to tell you this before you say it, hopefully, in most cases. And if you feel yourself thinking, let me just jump in, let me do it, that is when you say, hey brain, it's not my turn. I'm going to gather some patience here. I'm going to is there another way I need to support this person? Clearly, there's a little bit of imbalance happening. Maybe the person just needs a minute to finish what they're typing. Maybe they're slower at typing than you are. Maybe maybe they don't feel great. It might not be anything at all. It might just be totally you being impatient. I'm sure that never happens, right? I'm never impatient. I'm so perfect. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yes. So leveling up as a pair, let me just jump in, is a phrase that you watch for. And when you see it, you yourself step back, gather more patience, and let your pair keep going. That is a pretty big level up. On the flip side of this, and what I've heard about happening is, I know that there are places out there where people are told to grab the keyboard more. I've been told this. I know other people have been told this. And we really need to back up on this. This is a failure, and this is this is putting more weight on somebody who is already at the power disadvantage in the pair. whenever you have two people in a group, one has more power than the other. If we can just like start with that and admit it, things are going to be easier. And so if you're the person in the pair who has more power and you are putting the weight on the other person to grab the keyboard from you, that's kind of unfair. So especially if you're in a place where you're like, I've heard of this getting into people's feedback. And if you're putting this down in someone's feedback, congratulations. You've just made it harder for that person to get promoted. You've made it harder for them to like feel like to level up within the company. And it's like, instead of getting ally points for taking action, you're getting the ally points taken away. And I don't think that's what you want. So let me just jump in. We are retiring this phrase, and we are also retiring the phrase, you need to grab the keyboard more. This is just not a way to work with a shy pair. This is only going to give a shy pair more anxiety than they probably already have. And so these two things together create a real toxicity in pairing because it puts the weight on someone who feels like they are already at a disadvantage, at a further disadvantage. Who wants that? I'm sure you don't want that. I know I don't want that. There are a lot of pairs out there who don't want that either. So I'm going to say that is one key way to level up. The next skill for leveling up is to make sure that your pair is feeling heard. Like they are participating in the input of the pairing session. So have you ever had the experience where you're just like typing along, or like you say something to your pair and you just get no response? This has happened to me, where I've been pairing with someone and they are typing and they just keep typing, like my words just totally went psh. Or we're talking about should we delete something or not, and I'm of the opinion that the thing should not be deleted, and the person just clicks and it's done. That's a great way to make somebody feel like you don't hear them at all, like you're just ignoring them. And if someone feels like they're being ignored in a pair, they're going to feel horrible. And it's like, what just happened? People who don't feel heard don't feel valued. They don't feel like they can contribute. And this contributes to any toxicity that you have happening in your pair. And so if you are leveling up, you're the person who actively wants to be better at pairing, who you want to get promoted, or you want to be a better pair, or whatever. If you're pairing with someone and you're talking back and forth and they say something that you don't like or you disagree with, you can't just ignore it. You have to acknowledge it. Maybe it's something that you have to work through together. Maybe it's something that you didn't understand, but you can't just let it pass by. If you do, then it's going to make the pairing even harder. And I guarantee the person you ignored is going to remember that every single time they sit down and pair with you. Oh, it's blah, blah, blah who likes to ignore me. Who wants to pair with that person? So leveling up, make sure your pair feels heard. This leads us into our last leveling up skill, which is, this is tough. This is actually like a very senior skill. I consider it to be a very senior skill. And that is, if you and your pair end up getting really frustrated with each other, finding a way to work through that frustration. So this is a complicated topic. It's not like, you can just solve this by clicking a button. You really can't. And this is one of the hardest places to be if you're pairing. In fact, I've even heard of like fist fights breaking out over pairing, people yelling and screaming. It gets bad, and it gets bad at every place. If you work at a place that's pairing all the time, or like has lots of pairing, then this is going to happen. People disagree, and you have to find a way through it. So if you're leveling up, if you want to be better at pairing, it's important to kind of look at these like ways of communicating with someone when you're having a conflict, when you're trying to resolve things, and when you're trying to move forward. Talking about all of that is kind of outside of the scope of this video, but what I will say is that there's a big piece of that that's you being able to let go of something. Letting go, it sounds abstract, but it's a super senior skill. Letting go of things. Letting go of choices that don't matter. You want to name something this, your pair wants to name something that. In truth, it doesn't matter which one you pick. Maybe you let go. You know, your pair just really dislikes something that you did, but it doesn't matter, but you're like, well, I don't know. I guess it's fine if we do it your way. Or you're just nervous at trying something that they want to try. You let go of your nervousness and you let them try the thing. You can always circle back and talk about it later. So these are just like a few scenarios in which this can happen. But I think the deeper thing to notice about this particular skill is it is about conflict resolution. And this is about leveling up on your communication skills in a pretty major way. But we're talking about leveling up as a pair. So one of the reasons why I'm talking about this is because I've interviewed at all kinds of places, done all kinds of pairing interviews, done all kinds of coding interviews, but rarely do I see people talking about this when they're like talking about what does it mean to be a senior pair. Pairing is mature enough, and I hope that it's widespread enough. We deserve to be talking about these types of this type of skill level. You know, it's really not just about knowing everything about a particular language or being to code really quickly. It's so much about like when you sit down to work with someone, how are you going to work together? And in pairing, you're not going to have a good end product if two people can't work together. And I really hope that the days of, oh, just let blah, blah, blah type, I hope those days are gone. You know? So these are the 3 skills that I think can help people level up in pairing. I'll just reiterate them one more time. So the first one we talked about is if you think, let me just jump in. Take a step back, gather some patience, and don't do it. It's painful, but don't do it. Number 2 is making sure that your pair feels heard. Even if it's something that you disagree with and it kind of you feel like it's opening a can of worms, you can't just ignore people. There is another way. There are 2 other ways. There are 3 other ways. There are other ways to get around this versus just ignoring the person and creating a long-lasting toxicity. Number 3, getting through being frustrated with your pair or your pair being frustrated with you in a way that allows you to continue the pairing session. This is definitely like super leveling up skill, but it's so important. You know, if people focused on these type of 3 skills, no matter if they're in a pairing environment or not, I think that working together to build software would be easier, so much easier in so many ways. Because at the end of the day, we all want to be heard. You know, we all know how stressful building software can be. But obviously, if we are trying to level up as pairs, we like doing things together. So let's do it. Build up the people around you. Listen to them. Make sure that they feel heard. And wonderful things are going to come your way. Thanks. And get your Pear Conf ticket!